here with Paddy McCarthy at Crystal Palace training ground. Paddy's an old teammate of mine, played with him for many years at Crystal Palace, now the under-18s manager at Crystal Palace Football Club. So welcome, Paddy, to Football DNA. I want to start off by talking about your integration into professional football, your journey over from Ireland, and now your role as under-18 manager at Crystal Palace Football Club. So how did the journey take place at 16 years old, coming over from what was a very close community type football club over in Ireland?
Just got scouted really for the representative teams. First of all, for me, what would be the equivalent of district. From that, made it into the international setup. Started playing for Ireland under 14s, and off the back of that, really was going back and forth to different clubs on trial. Was offered a few contracts at different clubs and chose Man City. Great decision I made really, because it was a fantastic learning environment. Other Irish kids went over at the same time: Glenn Whelan, Willow Flood, Stephen Elliott, Stephen Paisley, Brian Murphy, who you'll know, who you played with at QPR. So it was just a great time to go across to the club, and Man City were really taking the academy sort of side of their football club forward, and it was ultimately the right decision for me.
So the manager who brought you over as your youth manager was Frankie Bunn. Long history developing young, hungry footballers, developing them not just as youth team players but into the first team environment as well. Was that a big factor of you choosing Manchester City?
Yeah, I mean, Frankie Bunn was a massive reason for going over there. They also had Alex Gibson, who was a kind of ex-England youth team coach. So the whole sort of structure and setup of the club, and at that time, Man City playing at Main Road, they had that kind of us against the world mentality, and it just felt right for me. It felt like a good fit. It felt like a place where I could go and develop not only as a football player but as a person, and that was something that they massively ingrained into us there. It wasn't only sort of football development but development as people. They ingrained some great values, and the benefits of that is that even the lads that didn't go on to have successful careers, and a hell of a lot did. There was, off the top of my head, I can count probably 7 or 8 lads who had successful careers in England and back home in Ireland. But lads who didn't have successful football careers had successful careers in other avenues. I think that was down to the values that Frankie Bunn ingrained in us as people. The demands were high. It wasn't always nice, but you kind of, once you came through it, you seen the benefits of it.
So for 2 years as a scholar, trying to find your way into professional football, you first found a pathway into the first team, if I remember rightly, and then your first loan was Boston.
Yeah, Boston was. I was in and around the reserves quite a lot from quite a young age, and I was playing alongside at times Richard Dunn, Steve Howie, Paul Dickoff, and we were always kind of integrated into the first team training. That was massive. Playing with, training with, and against these types of players. The reserve league around that time, especially in the northern section, was really competitive, and just playing in that league, I got kind of spotted by I think Neil Thompson was the manager at Boston, and Neil Redfern was his assistant, and they see me play against Leeds in front of probably about 7,000 or 8,000. That was how the reserve league was back then, because there was always first team players playing. They seen me play in that game. I think I might have played up against Darren Huckabee and Robbie Keane. So massive learning curve for a young player. I coped with that test that night, and off the back of that, Boston came in and asked me did I want to go on loan. Kevin Keegan pulled me into the office, asked me would I go to Boston. I said I didn't want to go to America, and he just kind of thought, what have we brought here? He told me it's down beside Skegness, so off I went, and I mean that was just a fantastic learning curve for me. It was completely different to what I was used to at Man City. It took me out.
So Man City, obviously Premier League, finding your pathway out of the league, you know, a real difficult, different type of environment that you was used to. and successfully earning that next loan into the Football League with Notts County.
Yeah. Well, I think the start of my loan at Boston didn't start too well. I got sent off on my debut, then I got dragged off at half time in the next game.
So now we're talking about resilience, about characteristics.
Yeah, and then it would have been easy for me to kind of go back into me comfort bubble at Man City, but I had a chat with Neil Thompson at the time, and he said, look, I like what I see. When you're back from your suspension, I want you to stay, I want you to extend your loan, and I want you to fight for a place in the team. And that's what I've done, and kind of got back into the team, proved myself at that level. And like you say, the next step was up a division with Notts County. I think it was Billy Reardon that was manager at the time. Relegation battle.
So the influences that you had in your early years stood you in good stead for that loan into Boston, into that man's kind of atmosphere, that then situations where points really count. Mortgages are there to be paid for and everything else. And what was the feeling of the senior players when they saw this young, hungry Manchester City centre-half coming for this loan?
They probably, I mean, straight away you need to impress them, I think, with work rate. It's not about what wash bag you have or what car you drive. I think players respect you when they see you're willing to dig in, and they see you're willing to put in the hard yards alongside them. And like I said, my first probably experience of the real men's game and where it matters at that sort of level League Two was when I lost my marker from a corner in a derby game against Lincoln, and he's nicked in front of me and scored. Took complete responsibility of it. Was having a decent enough game apart from that one incident. Half time went in, and Neil Redfern, who was at that stage probably 38, 39 years of age, I'm 19, he's played 1,000 games at this stage and is still playing and still hungry and still showing a massive desire. And I've come in and apologise, and wow, he just let rip. He proper let me have it. So I was.
And was that the first time you'd encountered that kind of reaction from teammates?
No, we used to have it. We used to have it out at Man City. We never accepted people kind of.
So it didn't come as a shock to you then?
No, it wasn't a shock. But when it's delivered by a man of that stature, it's different than say a Joey Barton or a Glenn Whelan. It's a different type of, and it's in that environment, like you say, where it's do or die. So. Because I'd been used to it with Frankie Bunn, because I'd been used to it with my teammates, and all probably my managers from a young age, because I've probably built up a resilience to it. So went out after a second half, played well, made sure that no marker got away from me for the corner, that was for sure. And after the game, it was just a little pat on the back from Neil Redfern, well done, and that was, for me, I like that feeling.
So slowly but surely, you was gaining confidence, you was gaining momentum, you was gaining games in under your belt, and then the next move into the Football League with Notts County with Billy Dearden arrived. How long was you at Notts County for, and what was different between a Boston out of the league into a Notts County that was a different type of football club with a reputation to go with it as well?
Well, Boston was League Two, so they were in the league at this stage, but again didn't have the infrastructure or resources of a league club, so they were fighting for their lives. Yeah. And in terms of the infrastructure at Notts County was better, wasn't great because the club was in administration. You'll know what Notts County probably still isn't an ideal sort of infrastructure. It's getting better, but at that stage we didn't have a lot of resources, and Billy Dearden was fantastic in terms of how he organised the team. But the plan was to go on loan for 8 games. The club was in a relegation battle. Can I go and help them? But also, can they go and help me develop and give me that exposure in a league above what I'd played before? After 6 games, we had earned safety, so we couldn't get relegated. So I was looking forward to the last 2 games of the season to kind of obviously benefit me as a player. got called in and told, listen, you've been brilliant, but the administrators won't pay our wages now. That so I missed out on 2 valuable games that I see. So that kind of left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. And when they asked me to go back the next season, I turned it down on the basis of that. Although looking back now, it was probably completely out of the manager's control and in the hands of the administrator. And after going through what we went through at Crystal Palace, I can see now the importance of saving little bits and bobs. But at that stage in my life, when I'm 19, I was pretty self-driven and was desperate to play in them 2 games and build my profile and kind of keep the momentum going that I'd gained throughout that season.
So 6 games at Notts County, an experience at Boston, using all your experience from a young, hungry Irish international, takes yourself back to Manchester City, fighting for that first team spot. We know, having had conversations, that never really materialised. How did that make you feel as a young player when you saw perhaps opportunities given to other players that wasn't given to you?
Frustrated would probably be the word, but I never let that frustration kind of affect my performances or affect my kind of desire to be better or my belief. I always believed in myself. Kevin Keegan probably was sick of me knocking on his door because I wanted to get in his first team and I wanted to know how I could get there, and if I couldn't get there, why. And it got to a stage where I was playing really well for the reserves. And an opportunity came for Kevin Keegan to put me into the first team. I think it was 2021. An opportunity came I think it was 20 at the time, put me in the first team against Bolton, and I'll never forget it because I was training and playing well. I was confident, and I thought, come on, this could be my opportunity. He put Danny Mills, who was an England international, he played him centre half instead of me. So that was kind of where I thought, looking back now, the writing was on the wall. So I then kind of made my mind up that no, I don't want to hang around here if he's not going to trust me. I know it's not easy to trust a 20-year-old kid in such an important position, but I was so sort of focused and self-driven that I thought, if he's not going to trust me, I want to go and play my football elsewhere. So that's when I knocked on the door and said, look, we've got to kind of come to an agreement where what's best for both parties.
So 21 years old, you're on your travels, first real travel as a professional footballer. You change your environment from Ireland into Manchester, and then suddenly, £100,000 later, you find your way as a signing under Craig Levein at Leicester City. How did that make you feel in terms of a young player, again trying to stake his claim as a first team player?
It was, again, looking back, it was kind of, we played a reserve game on a Tuesday night, and then the next day it was into the office. Look, we've accepted an offer for you. Do you want to go? You can stay if you want, but because you're still under contract, it's up to you. I want to go. It was just literally that, as simple as that. And when I went to Leicester again, I was just kind of motivated first and foremost to impress my peers and my teammates. So I want them to trust me first and foremost, and understand that I'm willing to do the hard yards with them. And then after that was just to establish myself in the team and kind of progress my career.
So when you move around football clubs, as we'll speak about later on in the piece, them first impressions are so key, aren't they? When you walk into a door, when you walk into a door with senior professionals, with young professionals, and trying to achieve the achievements that you have that intent to go into a new football club with. How do you take care of them first 3 or 4 days as a young professional footballer?
By presenting yourself well, so making sure you look the part, because perception's massive, and first impressions, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So make sure you present yourself well, make sure you're respectful to everybody, and take time to talk and kind of connect with your teammates. Be true to yourself. There's no point in trying to be something that you're not or fit into the group. Make sure you're true to yourself, and first and foremost, work your socks off. People aren't interested. When we were players, we were never interested in what car a new signing drove into the gate or what washbag he had. We were only interested in, can he help us win football matches? Can we trust him in the 90th minute of a game? And that's basically my mentality was, I want to get in here and I want to let these players know, because they had a lot of established players at Leicester at the time: Dion Dublin, Lillian Nallas, Keith Gillespie, Ian Walker. I want them to trust me. I want them to know that I can play in their team, I can affect their team in a positive way, and that was basically my mentality.
So we talk about the words trust, and we speak about that quite a lot in your early years as a professional footballer. Craig Levein made you captain as a young player at Leicester City. How does that make senior players feel when a young 21, 22-year-old gets given that armband? And how did that make you feel as a young professional footballer?
I don't really know how it made the senior players feel. I didn't really think about it, how it made other people feel, and it didn't really affect me either. I brought to the table what I naturally brought to the table. I didn't alter. I always voiced my opinions. I was always honest. I was always worked my socks off. I always tried to lead by example, and just a bit of cloth on my arm never really altered me or never really made me any different in terms of how I approached it. It was a massive honour. I mean, to lead a club like that at such a young age, and being given the responsibility to captain the team. I remember the first game was an FA Cup game against Tottenham at the Walker Stadium, and Robbie Keane captained the other team, and it was, I'm 21 here, live on TV, Robbie Keane, captain of Ireland, on the other side, and it was just for me it made me feel like, wow, this is fantastic. But it wasn't, I've got here, I want to rest on my laurels. It was, this is felt kind of natural, to be honest with you. The senior players were massively supportive. Alan Mabry was a great support for me. Dion Dublin was brilliant. Craig Levein, ex-centre half and captain of Hearts as well, was never really said a lot. It was just, there you go, and then it kind of it just rolled on like that. But it wasn't easy when I went to Leicester. I mean, I got into the team. It wasn't just plain sailing. There was bumps in the road. I got left out of the team because I had a dip in form, and then I had to really knuckle down. I didn't get disappointed. I trained harder than I ever did. I've done more than I ever did to get back into the team, and I made sure when that opportunity came to get back in, I was ready to take it. So it wasn't all just clear sailing. It wasn't this, I've come from Man City, I get in the team, everything's great. I was out of the team probably at the start of that season, and this was January, and then I was captain because I took the kick and got up and carried on. And yeah, it was looking back, it was massive. But when you're in amongst it, you don't think of how that looks on the outside, or how it's perceived, or the magnitude of captaining such a club at a young age. It just felt natural. Felt like it. Yeah.
So leadership qualities you've shown in your junior years over in Ireland. You brought them over to England with Manchester City. You had your experiences on your 2 loans, then into your first money move. And then your next move takes you into London with Charlton, with Alan Pardew.
Yeah.
Did you see a big difference in playing for a northern club, a Midlands-based club with Leicester, and obviously with your early days at Manchester City, to then coming down into the capital, playing for a major football club like Charlton Athletic?
I'd suggest all the clubs that I was at were big football clubs. Man City, Leicester, Charlton had just been relegated. Was the changing room different? Yeah, a little bit. The London changing rooms, the majority of them probably are a little bit different to the changing rooms up north, and that's probably a fact that you know, and anybody who's been to the 2 different would be able to recognise. But I think Charlton was probably a move that I wanted to stay at Leicester. because I was enjoying it and I was captain there. But when an offer comes in for you that the club accepts, I was never too keen on moving down to London in the first place. My family were settled, but when that offer's accepted, I think you kind of have to see the writings on, not the writings on the wall, but Charlton, when I went down to meet them, were really throwing everything at getting promoted to the Premier League. They sold me this kind of, we're having a right go, which they did. In fairness, the whole club infrastructure was a great setup, a fantastic football club. So I did make the move, but probably in hindsight wasn't the right time to move away from Leicester. But it's just how it works out.
Obviously, you're into your third spell at a different football club, still relatively young in your early stages. See that difficulty in perhaps a Charlton not trying to get that final move back into the Premier League.
Yeah.
Seeing a disappointment, then recognising that you had to move again into Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And this is where me and Paddy met as footballers, and this is where I met Paddy, and more importantly his personality. And this is where I saw now your leadership qualities coming to the fore. We spent a lot of time talking about formative years with early coaches, and there was one coach that I remember you speaking about very early, and that was Rob Kelly at Leicester. And it was that conversation that I thought then, this guy has got definite responsibilities in terms of leading his career forward. And it was then at Crystal Palace where injuries started coming into your game. Was it that time that got you thinking about your future years, about where you are now as a youth coach at Crystal Palace?
Yes. When I got injured, yes. I think I started to do my qualifications, but I was always aware of the kind of the career of a footballer is short term. My uncle was great as well. My uncle Sean was a semi-pro footballer in Ireland, and he always kind of used to speak to me: do your level 2, do your B licence, do your A licence, be prepared for when you retire. And then the PFA stuck on these workshops all the time, and it's not like the lads. This information is out there, and it's getting thrown at all of these academy players and the academy parents, and everybody tells you that it's a short career. Senior pros tell you enjoy it while you can. It's over before you know it. The PFA come in and give you educational courses. They tell you that you need to set up a pension, you need to look after your money, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I listened, basically. Some players didn't and found themselves in difficulty. I listened and I thought, yes, I need to have something to fall back on when I retire from the game, and I want to stay in the game because that's all I know. Coaching is something that interests me. Rob Kelly was certainly somebody who I thought loved being on the grass, and he made coaching look enjoyable.
Is that the key to coaching? Do you have to go and portray yourself in a way that allows the players to become excited about that person who's taking that session?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, excited, motivated, loads of different things. I think coming and seeing you work at Cambridge, it's you knew when to crack the whip, you knew when to have a laugh, you knew how to. When the lads needed a rest, when they needed to be pushed physically, mentally, and that was something that I always tried to recognise with different coaches. You were an expert at that, in terms of you had it down to the individual. He needs this, he needs that, he needs
Is
this.
it the individual rather than the collection of players? As a junior coach, as a young player coming into hopefully professional footballer, do we concentrate more on the team, the whole group, or is it our responsibility to coach the individual, knowing that, listen, not everybody's going to become a professional footballer?
I think it's both. I think you have to coach the individual, definitely. Certainly at our club we have individual development programs for all players. They have to understand how to play within a team structure and the importance of your job within a team structure. But ultimately, when you talk about responsibility, the player has to take responsibility. The player has to make the right decisions on and off the pitch. He has to be conscious of the information that we're giving him, and digest that and put it to practice out on the football pitch. So yes, we can put all of these support mechanisms around the individual, be it for his individual development or the team's development, but ultimately it comes down, when you talk about the word responsibility, it comes down to the players. The players who take responsibility of their own career will be the ones that succeed. The ones who don't and blame everybody else will be the ones who ultimately fail.
So these values that you're now carrying into your role here at Crystal Palace, are these your values that are inside you right from the very word go when you decided that you wanted to be a professional footballer, or were these values gained over an experience with a Frankie Bunn, with a Rob Kelly, with various other coaches that you played with in them early years of your professional football career?
I would say both. I can remember when I was a kid crying when I got beat in a game of football on the street. Clear memory. I remember the kid's name and everything, and just was completely blown away that somebody beat me to the point of tears, which sounds really strange, but that's a memory that sticks in my mind. So I would say that definitely, but then I would say that with the right guidance throughout my career, with the right people, married up with the right teammates, with the right coaches, with the right support mechanisms in terms of family, friends, coaches, managers, all of these things I think help develop the natural part of it further. So I would definitely say it's both. I think you find it hard pushed to motivate somebody 100% every day. You have to have something within you that makes you want to get up out of bed and be the best that you can be. And that's something that I know you still have, something that I still have. And I want to, when I get something, I want to earn it. So yeah, I'd say you have to have something within you to start with, but then it can be nurtured by the right people, and having the right people. We spoke about this a lot. Having the right people around you, I think, is massively important. The right influences around you. If you want to have a good perception of who you are yourself, I think you have a look at the people close to you. If the people around close to you are solid stand-up people who you think, you know what, I'd like to be like him, naturally you're going to be one of them. If you look in your phone book or you're standing in a group of people and you think, he's a bit of an idiot, he's untrustworthy, he's a bit of an idiot, I think 9 times out of 10 you're going to be one of them.
So we're talking about a career that's spanned a number of games, a number of highs, lows, different experiences, starting your coaching pathway at a fantastic football club. What's next for Paddy McCarthy?
Every day is a skill day, really. I'm in a fantastic place where I'm learning, a testing environment with at a level that really kind of tests you. I'm learning tactically every day. I'm learning kind of more than I would ever learn in any other environment at this football club, and it's been tough. I've got to say, this coaching at this level is extremely tough, and it's testing at times, but I'm enjoying every last minute of it. I've had a good response from the lads individually and collectively, but I'm still in the early years. I'm probably just over a year into the job, and I think it's been perfect for me coming out of playing and into this kind of coaching role that I found myself in. Has been probably the best thing that could have happened to me at such a great club as well, a club that I think marries up with my values and certainly your values. We speak about this quite a lot. So in terms of the future, who knows? who knows? I just want to be the best Crystal Palace under 18s coach that I can be, and after that, no, who knows where we'll end up.
Well, this is it. Obviously, I've come to the end of the interview with Paddy. I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time in your busy schedule. I'll put it on the credit card. And I think what we're trying to do here is enlighten people to a different pathway, a different way of reaching different roles in football. Everybody has different characteristics. Everybody has a different history. But I think what we've come to the conclusion on, not just this interview, but many conversations that we've spoken with each other, is that it actually comes from within. We can have all the guidance and we can have all the facilities, we can have all the knowledge, but it does come from in that individual, which is unique really, because I wasn't the best player in that under-18 football club. I can speak on behalf of Paddy and say perhaps Paddy wasn't the best player at his under-18 football club, but we've reached a point in our lives now where we're maximised. And I think that's key to any individual. The message from me to people who are watching this interview, to a parent, to an uncle, to an aunt, to a trainee, to a future coach, is try and be the best that you possibly can, because ultimately there's that mirror in front of you that you have to look into, and that's my message of the day. So Paddy, thank you very much. Wish you well for the rest of the season, and win that league as an under-18 manager, because that'll be on your CV for the rest of your career as well.